Adrian Hale expected nothing more than a quiet Christmas dinner with his son, a small attempt at making the season feel normal again. But the moment he stepped into the glowing community hall, he froze. At a corner table sat a woman, in a worn coat with two small children pressed against her sides. Their plate was almost empty. The children were taking slow, tiny bites to stretch what was left. And the woman? She wasn't eating at all. She just watched them with a trembling smile, the kind built from months of exhaustion, fear, and pretending everything was okay. Adrian recognized that look, because he wore the same one in the mirror every morning. What he didn't know is that this one moment would shatter everything he thought he knew about loneliness and rewrite the path of two families forever. For the past 3 years, Christmas had become a quiet ritual of survival for Adrian Hale. The city dazzled with gold lights, music drifted from every corner, and laughter spilled out of crowded restaurants. But none of it reached him. He lived his life like a blueprint. Straight lines, clean angles, no surprises. It was safer that way. Work all day, put Leo to bed, sit in silence until he fell asleep on the couch. It wasn't sadness he felt. Not exactly. More like a soft, constant ache, the kind that never screams but never truly fades. Then one night in mid-December, his son approached him with a hesitant tug on his sleeve. "Dad, can we do something Christmassy this year? Like a real Christmas thing? Just us." 8 words. That's all it took to crack Adrian's carefully structured armor. He didn't want Leo to grow up thinking holidays were something people simply endured. So he searched until he found something special. The community winter dinner, a warm tradition sponsored by local businesses, open to families from every walk of life. For once, Adrian wanted Leo to feel surrounded by joy, noise, and other children, a break from the quiet house and the two adult silence between them. But fate had a different plan, because as Adrian stepped through the decorated hall, lights glowing, children laughing, tables overflowing with food, his gaze landed on the one sight that made his heart stop, a mother sacrificing herself so her children could feel full. A picture he knew too well, a picture that would follow him, reshape him, and eventually lead him somewhere he never expected to go. Adrian Hale moved through life with the precision of a man who no longer trusted surprises. He woke every morning at exactly 5:30 a.m., made coffee, packed Leo's lunch, reviewed architectural drafts before sunrise, dropped his son at school, worked. Silence had become his language. Routine his shield. His firm, Hale and Stone Architects, was one of the most respected in the city. Colleagues called him brilliant. Clients described him as calm, reliable, almost unshakable. No one noticed the exhaustion behind his eyes. No one noticed the way he avoided emotional topics with surgical skill. No one noticed how often he stared at his phone, wondering if today would be the day his ex-wife called after 3 years of silence. Leo had stopped asking. Adrian hadn't. Not out loud. But in the quiet moments, the ones no one was supposed to see, the ache returned. The ache of raising a child alone. The ache of wondering what he'd done wrong. The ache of loving someone who walked away without looking back. That afternoon, the city had been unusually cold. Wind whipped between buildings, rattling street signs and scattering loose papers across the sidewalks. Adrian picked up Leo from school, noticing the red flush on his son's cheeks. "You okay, buddy?" "Yeah, I'm just excited." "About what?" Leo hesitated, a small, shy pause. "About the Christmas thing tonight. I've never been to one like that." Adrian softened. He'd made the reservation days ago, but he hadn't expected Leo to be this excited. Maybe he really had underestimated how much his son missed having simple holiday experiences, things other families took for granted. As they walked toward the car, Leo continued chattering about lights, music, and how he hoped the place had hot chocolate. His small voice filled the air like a warm breeze, and for a moment Adrian felt lighter. "Do you think they'll have other kids there?" Leo asked as they buckled in. "I'm sure they will." "Do you think they'll want to play?" "I hope so." "Do you think?" "Leo," Adrian chuckled softly, "you can ask them yourself when we get there." His son's grin widened. Later, as they stepped into the community hall, warm air washed over them. Cinnamon, roasted chicken, faint holiday music. Lights draped across the ceiling. Laughter echoed from long wooden tables wrapped in garlands and candles. Children ran past them with glowing bracelets and bell necklaces. Parents smiled. People mingled. For a heartbeat, Adrian wondered if tonight could actually be good. Then he saw the woman. She sat at a small round table pushed against the far wall. Her coat was frayed at the sleeves. Her hair pulled into a messy bun as if tied in a hurry. Her face, pale, tired, far too thin, carried the soft panic of someone trying hard not to break. Her daughter, maybe 6 years old, sat straight and silent, nibbling slowly at a piece of bread as though rationing it. Her toddler son was half asleep against her shoulder, and the plate in front of them almost empty, barely enough for one person. Yet she kept nudging bites toward her kids, pretending she wasn't hungry. Adrian felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. He took a step, instinctively, then stopped. She's probably proud. She won't want help. Don't embarrass her. Don't intrude. You don't know her situation. But then he felt a small hand slide into his. Leo was staring at the same table, at the same woman, at the same children. "Dad," Leo whispered, tugging gently. "They don't have enough food." Adrian swallowed. "I think they're okay, buddy." "No, she's not eating." The quiet certainty in his son's voice startled him. And before Adrian could say anything more, Leo walked straight toward the table. "Hi," the boy said gently to the little girl. "Do you want to sit with us? My dad won't mind." The girl blinked. Her mother froze. "Oh, sweetheart, that's very kind, but we're fine," the woman began, lifting her hand as if blocking a spotlight. Adrian stepped forward. "You're welcome to join us," he said softly. "No pressure at all. Just if you want to." The woman studied him, searching for pity, judgment, anything sharp. She saw none, only sincerity, and exhaustion mirrored in his eyes. Finally, she exhaled. "Okay, thank you." The children moved first, sliding their chairs together, comparing bracelets, asking each other names. And the adults followed, slowly, as if afraid to step into warmth they no longer believed in. As they sat together, the table felt suddenly fuller, not just with food, but with something gentler, something both adults had forgotten existed. Connection, human softness. The children would never remember the details of that night, but they would remember the warmth, the food, the laughter. The adults would remember everything. For Maya, this night wasn't just dinner. It was the first moment she realized she wasn't the only one breaking quietly. And for Adrian, it was the first moment he realized connection wasn't something to fear. It was something to rebuild with, one small kindness at a time. If you were Maya, exhausted, hungry, and trying to stay strong, would you have accepted Adrian's help, or would pride have held you back? I'm curious how you would handle that moment. Tell me in the comments. The dinner hall grew louder as the evening went on. Clattering plates, bursts of laughter, little feet running across polished floors. But at the table where Adrian and Maya sat, the noise softened into something gentler, something warmer. Leo and Lily had settled into a rhythm of shared crayons. Inside jokes whispered across the table, and the kind of instant childhood friendship adults silently envy. Oliver was now fully awake, babbling happily as he squeezed a small packet of applesauce between his chubby hands. Maya wiped the edges of his mouth with the instinctive tenderness of a mother who had done this gesture 10,000 times before. For a moment, Adrian just watched, not in pity, not in curiosity, but in quiet appreciation. It had been years since he'd seen a family, any family, up close like this. Years since he'd witnessed the small, tender moments that made chaotic days feel full instead of heavy. Even seeing Maya gently stroke Lily's hair made something inside him soften. But softness was dangerous. Softness meant letting someone in. Softness meant feeling again. Feeling had cost him once. He wasn't sure he could afford it a second time. Still, he couldn't stop watching her, noticing things he hadn't meant to notice. Maya held herself like someone who used to stand tall, but now guarded her posture, as if expecting life to hit her again. She smiled at her children with her whole soul, even though her eyes looked decades older than her age. She ate slowly, carefully, as if unfamiliar with the sensation of food filling her stomach. Then there were her hands, the small tremors, the faint red marks near her knuckles, the way she interlaced her fingers when she grew nervous. Adrian noticed everything, maybe because he had once trembled this way too. Maya caught him staring and offered a small, shy smile. "I'm sorry for rambling earlier," she said. "I talk too much when I'm anxious." "You weren't rambling," Adrian said, "and I wasn't judging." She looked surprised, then relieved. It was painfully clear how rare relief was for her. "Most people judge," she admitted quietly, "even when they don't say it out loud. Then they're not people worth listening to." Maya looked down at her plate, blinking fast. "You'd be surprised," she whispered. "People have a talent for deciding who deserves empathy." Adrian swallowed. He knew that talent well. People judged Maya for needing help. People judged Adrian for being a single father with full custody, assuming something terrible must have happened for a mother to walk away. People judge, period. But tonight, maybe they didn't have to. A volunteer walked by with a tray of warm desserts, cinnamon rolls, tiny cupcakes, sugar cookies decorated with holiday sprinkles. Leo gasped. Lily's eyes widened. Oliver pointed aggressively at everything. Maya raised her hand politely. "Just cookies, please. One each." The volunteer smiled. "We have plenty. Would you like extra?" "No, thank you," Maya said quickly. "Just enough for the kids." Adrian spoke before she could refuse again. "Actually, we'll take a full tray," he said. Maya's head snapped toward him. "You don't have to." "I'm not doing it for you," he lied smoothly. "I'm doing it for Leo. He'll eat half of them before we get to the car." Leo looked up confused. "I will." Adrian gave him a look. Leo nodded firmly. "Yes, I will." Maya suppressed a laugh, the first real one he'd seen from her. When the volunteer placed a tray on the table, the kids lunged forward like joyful little wolves. Maya instinctively reached for the smallest cookie, but Adrian nudged the plate again. "Take the one you want," he said gently. "I don't know which one that is." It wasn't meant to be poetic, but it was. Her eyes softened. Adrian realized something then. This woman wasn't fragile. She was exhausted, not weak, worn down, not broken, bent under the weight of doing everything alone. He knew that weight. They all continued eating until the table felt less like a random arrangement of strangers and more like a temporary universe created just for them. Children laughing, warm plates between them, stories exchanged, walls lowering. Something simple, something human, something both of them had been missing. Eventually, a soft musical performance began on the hall's small stage. A violinist playing a gentle holiday melody. The children quieted. The crowd sank into a warm hush. Adrian watched the way Maya closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. He studied the subtle release of tension in her shoulders, the way she allowed herself to breathe deeper, if only for a moment. He didn't know her story yet, but he wanted to, not because he was curious, but because he recognized pain when he saw it, because he had lived it too. After the song ended, Maya's eyes fluttered open. She caught Adrian watching and smiled softly. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's been a long time since I felt peaceful." "You deserve to feel that more often." She swallowed hard. Maybe she wasn't used to hearing that. Maybe no one had told her she deserved anything in a long time. "Thank you," she whispered, "for tonight, all of it. You don't have to thank me." "I do," she insisted. "This doesn't happen to me." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Adrian leaned forward slightly. "Maya," he said quietly, "you don't owe me anything. Not gratitude. Not explanation. Not excuses. You deserve a night where you don't have to fight." Her eyes shone, just a little. Not tears. Just the glimmer of someone finally being spoken to like a human being again. As dessert plates emptied and children yawned, Maya gently rocked Oliver while smoothing Lily's hair. Adrian watched her with a mix of admiration and ache. She reminded him of a lighthouse, weather-beaten, standing in storms she never asked for, but still shining for the little ones who needed her. She looked up, catching his gaze. "What?" she asked softly. Nothing, he lied. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. It was recognition. It was empathy. It was a quiet collision of two lives that had been drifting, drifting, until tonight. Tonight, they were no longer drifting. Tonight, their worlds had quietly bumped into each other, and both felt the shift. Suddenly, Leo tugged Adrian's sleeve. Dad, he whispered urgently, can Lily come with us to see the lights outside? Lights. The decorated trees. The glowing archway. The outdoor photo booth. Possibility. Her name was Maya. Her daughter was Lily. Her toddler was Oliver. Maya apologized again and again, but Adrian kept shaking his head. You're not a bother, he said, and she believed him. They talked in fragments. Two strangers learning the outlines of each other's pain without saying too much. But Adrian noticed the small details. Maya's hand slightly trembling. The way she cut portions smaller for her kids. The way she smiled only with her lips, not her eyes. Behind every gesture was a story. A story he wasn't sure he wanted to hear, because he already felt it in his bones. And he wondered, for the first time in years, if tonight wasn't about Christmas at all, but about two people being put in the right place at the exact right moment to remember they weren't as alone as they thought. Before we move on, if you were Adrian and you saw a mother sacrificing her meal for her children, what would you have done in that moment? I'd love to read your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Maya Brooks had mastered the art of disappearing. Not physically. She was right here, sitting beside Adrian at the crowded community dinner table. But emotionally, she had learned to shrink herself until it felt like she took up no space at all. She spent the past year silently falling apart in grocery store aisles, on bus rides, and in her tiny living room after the kids were asleep. She never cried loudly. Loudness felt like a luxury for people who had someone to hear them. She cried quietly, in exhaustion, in whispers, in moments stolen between responsibilities. That was the kind of woman who now found herself sitting across from a man who looked like he belonged in a magazine. Crisp coat, strong jaw, clean haircut, composed posture, everything she wasn't. She kept reminding herself, don't let them see you struggling. Smile, keep the kids happy, pretend everything is fine. It's just one night. But it was hard to pretend when her daughter, Lily, was staring longingly at the plates that passed by. Harder still when her toddler, Oliver, couldn't keep his head up because he was too hungry and too tired. Hardest when she realized this man, this stranger, had noticed. As Leo and Lily exchanged crayons, giggles, and stories about school, Maya forced herself to steady her breathing. She wasn't used to kindness. Not from strangers. Not from anyone. She tucked a stray curl behind her ear and finally looked at Adrian directly. Thank you, she said quietly, her voice almost swallowed by the noise in the hall. Really, you didn't have to. I know, Adrian replied, eyes steady. That's why I wanted to. His tone wasn't patronizing, not pitying, just sincere. It had been a long time since she heard sincerity from an adult. She shifted uncomfortably in her chair. People didn't do things for her without wanting something in return. Life had taught her that harshly. Her ex, Marcus, had been charming in the beginning, all confident smiles and easy promises. But once bills piled up and responsibility hit, he vanished from her life, and their children's like dust blown off a windowsill. For months, Maya believed he'd come back. For months, she checked her phone at night. For months, she kept a tiny bit of hope alive, until hope became too painful to hold. Are you okay? Adrian asked gently. Maya blinked, pulled from her thoughts. Oh, yes, just tired. Her smile cracked at the edges. Adrian watched her carefully. He didn't pry, but he didn't look away either. He noticed things. The way she pushed food to her kids instead of herself, the slight tremor in her fingers, the red marks on her wrist where her jacket was too tight. He noticed everything. He didn't say a word. Instead, he slid the bread basket closer to her side of the table, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Please, he said softly, eat. Maya stared at the food. She hadn't eaten all day. Not breakfast. Not lunch. Her last real meal was yesterday afternoon, and even that had been a struggle. She wanted to take a piece. She needed to take a piece. But her pride was a stubborn, fragile thing. "I'm not hungry," she lied. Something in Adrian's face softened, a faint movement, like someone who recognized a lie because he lived inside one himself. "You don't have to pretend with me," he murmured. Parent to parent. "I get it." Maya froze. Parent to parent. Not charity to recipient. Not rich man to poor woman. Not one life judging another. Just two people trying to survive the impossible weight of raising children alone. Her fingers brushed the wooden table. A tear she didn't permit herself slid down too quickly for her to stop it. She wiped it away fast, embarrassed, but not fast enough. Adrian pretended not to notice. That alone almost made her cry again. The kids were laughing now. Leo doing silly impressions, Lily hiding her smile behind her hands, Oliver clapping randomly, because toddlers love chaos. The sound felt foreign to Maya. She'd heard her children laugh before, of course. Kids are resilient that way. But laughter in public? Laughter without fear? Laughter without pretending everything was normal? That was rare. She watched the children with a soft ache in her chest. She'd been carrying the world alone for so long that the idea of someone making space for her felt almost dangerous. Like leaning on a railing, she wasn't sure it was strong enough to hold her. Then Adrian spoke again, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Do you come to things like this often?" She shook her head. "No, this is our first time." "Same," he said. "My son asked for something Christmassy. I'm not very good at holiday stuff." She smiled, genuinely this time. "Well, you're doing better than me." "You're here," he said. "That's more than enough." She swallowed, throat tight. No one had said something kind to her in months. The volunteers walked by, refilling plates at tables, handing out desserts, offering hot chocolate. When one set a second plate on Maya's table, a full one, she quickly pushed it toward her kids. But Adrian nudged it back toward her, almost imperceptibly. "Please," he whispered, "you don't have to give everything away." Her breath caught. She lowered her gaze, staring at the plate as if unsure whether she was allowed to touch it. Then, slowly, she picked up a fork and took her first bite of the day. Her hands shook, not from weakness, but from a shock of letting herself accept something, receive something, allow herself to be cared for, even for a moment. Adrian didn't speak, didn't comment, didn't make it awkward. He simply let her eat, and something deep inside her, something she thought had died, flickered back to life. Hope, not the kind that promised happy endings, but the quiet hope that maybe she wasn't as invisible as she thought. As the night went on, Maya found herself laughing softly at something Leo said. Adrian watched her, not in a romantic way, but in a way that acknowledged her humanity, a way that made her feel seen. And for the first time in months, maybe years, Maya felt a little lighter. Not fixed, not safe, not healed, just lighter. Sometimes that's all it takes for a life to shift. Adrian smiled gently. Only if her mom says yes. Maya blinked, surprised that anyone bothered to ask her. Lily looked up with wide eyes. "Can I, Mommy?" Maya hesitated, not because she didn't trust them, but because trusting strangers had burned her before. Then she saw Leo's hopeful expression, Adrian's gentle, steady gaze, and the way her own daughter hadn't looked this alive in months. "Just for a few minutes," she said finally. Lily squealed. Leo grinned. Oliver clapped. Maya chuckled, and Adrian stood. "Shall we?" he asked. Something about the way he said it made Maya's heart skip, just slightly. Not romantically, just humanly. As the children raced ahead, Maya fell into step beside Adrian. And for the first time in a very long time, walking next to someone didn't feel scary. It felt right. It felt like the beginning of something she didn't have a name for yet. But she would. Soon. Very soon. The air outside the community hall was cold enough to make every exhale bloom white in the night, but the walkway was lined with glowing lights, creating a tunnel of warm brilliance that wrapped around the children like magic. Leo and Lily bolted ahead, laughter echoing between the decorated trees. Oliver toddled between them, arms out, squealing at every twinkling ornament. Maya hurried to catch up, instinctively ready to call out warnings. Don't run too fast, stay close, careful. But Adrian placed a gentle hand beside her, not touching, just close enough for her to feel the grounding presence. They're okay, he murmured. They're just being kids. The words hit harder than he knew. Being kids. Maya couldn't remember the last time her children had simply been kids. Carefree, loud, excited, unburdened by the weight she carried on their behalf. Life had been a cycle of survival. Paying bills, stretching groceries, finding work, losing work, trying again. There hadn't been space for magic, silly moments, or glowing lights. Tonight, for the first time in a long time, her kids weren't worrying, and that alone made her chest tighten with something dangerously close to gratitude. They slowed near the photo booth, a small structure framed by garlands, with a bench and a sign that read, "Winter Memories." The children piled onto the bench, squeezing shoulder to shoulder. Lily lifted Oliver onto her lap, while Leo carefully adjusted a giant foam Santa hat on his head. "Mommy, Adrian, come sit." Lily called out. Maya froze. Immediately, every muscle in her body stiffened. I shouldn't." "Why not?" Leo asked, genuinely confused. Maya's voice wavered. "I just shouldn't." Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You don't have to be in the picture," he said gently, "but you could if you wanted. No pressure." Her throat tightened. She wanted to so badly. But want felt dangerous. Want meant admitting she missed the kind of life where she could sit in silly photo booths with her children, smiling without worry. She swallowed hard. I don't look good tonight," she whispered. Adrian turned fully to her, brows knitting. "You look exhausted," he said honestly, "but not bad. And tired isn't something to be ashamed of." Maya's eyes stung. She wasn't used to being seen, not really seen. "I'll take the picture," she said softly, "but I'll stand behind them." Adrian smiled. "That works." She stepped behind a bench, hands gently resting on Lily's shoulders, Oliver leaning against her arm. Leo made a thumbs-up pose so exaggerated Maya laughed despite herself. The volunteers snapped the picture. "Perfect," they said. Maya turned away quickly, embarrassed at how warm her chest felt from something so simple. Adrian leaned down to look. The photo was beautiful, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. The kids glowed. Maya's tired smile was soft but full. Oliver was drooling on Lily's hair. Adrian chuckled. "You should keep a copy." She shook her head. "No, really? I shouldn't." "Why not?" "Because memories like this don't happen often. And when you only have one, it hurts more when things fall apart again." Adrian's chest tightened. He understood that too well. "Maya," he said quietly, "sometimes memories are the only thing strong enough to help us hold on." She looked up slowly, eyes glassy from emotions she didn't have the energy to hide anymore. "Maybe," she whispered. They walked further along the path, the children chasing glowing lights like fireflies. Maya found herself talking to Adrian, not out of obligation, but because it felt strangely easy. She told him about her part-time jobs, the nights she had to choose between gas and groceries, the mornings Lily asked for cereal and she had to pretend they ran out rather than admit they had no money left. She left out the darkest parts. The night she cried quietly so the kids wouldn't wake, the hunger pang she ignored, the way her ex's absence clawed at her self-worth. But Adrian sensed some missing pieces. He shared things too. Not much, not in detail, but enough. "That sounds hard," she said gently after he explained his ex-wife's disappearance. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "I'm sorry for what you're going through too," he said. "You shouldn't be doing all of this alone." Maya almost laughed. "What other choice do I have?" "Let someone help," he said quietly. "That's not something I know how to do. Maybe it's something you could learn." Her heart skipped, and she hated that it did. By the time they returned to hall entrance, the children were rubbing their eyes, leaning against their parents. The crowd had thinned, volunteers stacking empty trays. The music softer now. Maya picked up Oliver, his head dropping instantly onto her shoulder. "Thank you," she said, swallowing hard, for everything tonight. "I don't know how I can repay." "You don't have to repay me," Adrian cut in gently. It was just a nice night. She shifted her weight, nervous. People don't take us out, or sit with us, or offer us anything. Not anymore. I did, he said simply. Why? He hesitated. Because I know what it feels like. Because I saw you. Because I recognize pieces of myself in your exhaustion. But he didn't say any of that. Instead, because you look like someone who needed a break. And because your kids deserve nights like this. Maya bit her lip, blinking back fresh tears. You're a good man, Adrian. He tensed slightly, as if the compliment felt foreign. I'm just a father, he said, trying to do the best I can. She nodded slowly. I understand that, she whispered. Their eyes held for a moment too long. Not romantically. Not yet. Just two tired souls seeing each other fully for the first time. It was more intimate than a kiss could have been. As Maya gathered her things, Lily tugged at her coat. Mommy, can we see them again? Maya froze. Lily looked up innocently. Please. Maya, Leo added shyly. Maybe we could all, hang out again sometime? Adrian raised a brow at his son. Leo's cheeks flushed. Adrian looked at Maya. Her breath shook. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to give her children more nights like this. She wanted to give herself more nights like this. But want was dangerous. Want made her heart vulnerable. Want made hope hurt. So she swallowed. I don't know, she said. Maybe. Adrian nodded slowly, not disappointed, not pressuring. Just understanding. Maybe, he repeated. Can I give you my number? He asked gently. Only if you want it. No pressure. She hesitated. Then, almost at a whisper, okay. They exchanged phones, the small act feeling far heavier than it should. Maya tucked the phone into her pocket, like it was something fragile. Good night, Adrian. Good night, Maya. She turned to walk away. But after 3 steps, she paused and looked back. The lights behind her glowed softly. I really, really needed tonight, she said. Thank you. He nodded once. So did I. And as she walked into the winter night with her children, Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Soft. Quiet. Dangerous. Beautiful. Hope that this wasn't the end of their story, but the beginning. The night after the winter dinner felt different for both Adrian and Maya. For Adrian, the quiet in his apartment felt heavier than usual, but not in the lonely way he'd grown used to. Tonight, it felt like the end of something, and the beginning of something he didn't quite understand yet. Leo had fallen asleep instantly, curled with the glow stick bracelet Lily had given him. Every so often, the boy stirred, mumbling her name with the innocent fondness only children could pull off without embarrassment. Adrian stood in the doorway of Leo's room for a long time, watching his son breathe, realizing just how unusual this contented exhaustion looked on him. Leo hadn't had a night like that in years. Neither had Adrian. He walked to the living room, sat on the couch, and let out a long breath. He checked his phone once. Then again. Maybe she wouldn't text. Maybe she felt differently now that the warmth of the evening had worn off. But the truth, the one Adrian wasn't ready to admit, was that he wanted to hear from her. He wanted to know she got home safely. He wanted to feel that connection again, the one that cracked open something inside him that had been sealed shut for far too long. He set the phone down and rubbed his hands over his face. I'm being ridiculous, he muttered to himself. But when his phone buzzed softly on the coffee table, his heart stopped. Maya, we got home. Thank you for everything. Adrian stared at the message for a moment that stretched far too long. Then he typed, Adrian, I'm glad. I meant everything I said tonight. You and your kids deserve more nights like that. A long pause. Then, Maya, I wish the world agreed with you. Adrian frowned, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Adrian, the world is wrong sometimes. Another pause. A longer one. Then, Maya, good night, Adrian. He smiled. A small smile. But real. Adrian, good night, Maya. He placed the phone down and leaned back on the couch, feeling lighter. He didn't sleep well most nights. But tonight, he fell asleep without even realizing it. Across the city, In a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a faulty heater, Maya tucked Lily into bed while Oliver snored softly in his blanket bundle. Lily clung to her mother's hand. "Mommy, did you like him?" Maya's breath caught. "What?" "Mr. Adrian," Lily whispered. "Did you like him?" Maya brushed her daughter's hair back gently. "He was very kind," she said quietly, "and he made sure we had a good night. And he looked at you like you were important." Maya froze. Kids always notice more than adults thought. "I don't think." "It's true," Lily insisted. "Nobody looks at you like that. Not even Miss Carla from daycare pickup. But he did." Maya swallowed, throat tight. She didn't want to read too much into kindness. Kindness wasn't love. Kindness wasn't commitment. Kindness wasn't the guarantee someone would stay. Kindness could be temporary. It often was. "Mommy?" Lily whispered again. "Yes, baby." "Can we see them again?" Maya glanced at her phone on the nightstand. She saw Adrian's last message. Saw the sincerity she wasn't used to receiving. "Maybe. Just maybe. We'll see," she whispered softly. "We'll see what happens." She kissed Lily's forehead and turned off the light. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, Maya fell asleep feeling a little less alone. The next 3 days passed quietly. Maya worked her shifts, dropped the kids at school, stretched every dollar as thin as possible, and tried not to overthink the winter dinner. But thoughts of Adrian kept slipping in at inconvenient moments. The way he watched his son lovingly. The way he listened, actually listened, when she spoke. The way his voice softened when he said her name. She shook the thoughts off each time. Men like Adrian didn't choose women like her. But then, on Wednesday morning, her phone buzzed just as she finished bundling the kids for school. "Adrian, are you by any chance free Saturday afternoon? The outdoor market is hosting a winter story event. Leo really wants to go, and he asked if Lily could come too." Maya froze mid-step. There was no pressure in the message, no expectation, just a door opened gently, waiting for her to decide whether to step through. Her heart had been slammed shut for so long that even the possibility of stepping forward felt dangerous. She typed slowly. "Maya, that's very kind of you. We'd love to go." She hesitated, then added, "If you really mean it." The reply came instantly. "Adrian, I do." Her breath caught. Then she smiled, shy, uncontrollable, warm, and replied, "Maya, okay, then we'll be there." Saturday felt like stepping into a different version of reality. The winter market was alive with twinkling string lights, booths covered in pine branches, a live band playing jazz renditions of Christmas songs. Children ran between stalls holding steaming cups of cocoa. Lily sprinted toward Leo the moment she saw him. Oliver squealed as Adrian lifted him up. The kids connected like they never left each other's side. But it was Maya and Adrian who felt the shift most. Adrian hadn't felt nervous around a woman in years. Not since before the divorce. Not since before the silence that hollowed him out. But as Maya approached, hair loose today, cheeks pink from the cold, that same shy smile tugging at her lips, he felt something he thought had been long buried. Warmth. Not attraction. Not yet. Just warmth. "Maya," he said softly. "Hi." Her voice was breathy, surprised by her own smile. "I'm really glad you invited us. I'm glad you came." Their eyes held. Too long. Too knowingly. Maya looked away first, flustered. "Let's, find the storyteller before the kids riot." "Yes," Adrian chuckled. "That would be wise." They spent the entire afternoon together, watching the puppet show, sharing pastries, taking photos the kids insisted on, laughing, actually laughing, at silly jokes and small mishaps. But the strongest moments weren't the loud ones. They were the quiet ones, like when Maya tucked Oliver into his stroller, and Adrian watched with softness that melted her defenses, like when Adrian fixed Lily's scarf and Maya's chest tightened at the gentle, fatherly touch, like when their hands brushed while reaching for the same cookie sample, and neither pulled away immediately, like when they kept catching each other's eyes. And each time, the glance lasted a little longer. By late afternoon, the sky began to darken. Leo tugged Adrian's coat. Dad, can we go with him again? Lily tugged Maya's sleeve. Mommy, please. Maya looked at Adrian. He looked at her, and this time she didn't hesitate. Yes, she said softly. Adrian's chest loosened with relief. And then, as if the universe wanted to underline the moment, the first snow of the season began to fall. Soft, slow, gentle flakes drifting around them. An unspoken feeling settled between them. Something was beginning, something fragile, something powerful, something neither of them could stop even if they tried. That night, when the kids were asleep, Maya sat on the couch in the dim glow of the kitchen light. She stared at her hands. Hands that scrubbed dishes, held crying babies, filled out job applications, wiped her children's tears. Hands that hadn't been held in years. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, today was really nice. She smiled softly. Maya, it was... A pause. Then, Adrian, I'd like to see you again. All of you. Her breath hitched. She typed slowly. Maya, I like that too. And just like that, their world shifted again. Two families. Two broken hearts. 2 long winters of loneliness. Finally beginning to thaw. The week after the winter market felt different for both Adrian and Maya. For the first time in years, their routines had a hint of anticipation woven into the monotony, a soft hum beneath the surface, a quiet looking forward to something they didn't dare name yet. For Adrian, work no longer felt like an escape. It felt like something he simply did between moments he actually wanted to have. A week ago, he was fine with silence. He needed it, clung to it. But now, the silence felt too big, too empty, too much like the life he'd been living simply, because he didn't know how to want anything else. For Maya, the days were still hard. Bills still needed to be paid. Jobs still had unpredictable shifts. The kids still needed everything all at once. But her heart felt lighter than it had in months. She hummed while packing lunches. She laughed at Oliver's toddler nonsense. She didn't feel that sharp sting of panic every morning. She still struggled. Deeply, but she didn't feel as alone. Not since Adrian. Not since he looked at her like she was worthy. Their next meeting happened without planning. On Thursday evening, just after Maya picked Lily and Oliver up from daycare, her phone buzzed. Adrian, we're at Maple Park. Leo insisted on playing before dinner. Are you nearby? Maya blinked, surprised. She checked the street sign. Maple Park was only 2 blocks away. She looked at her children, who were already whining from long hours and short tempers, and she realized what they truly needed wasn't another cramped evening in their tiny apartment. They needed space, air, fun, something different. She texted back, Maya, we're 2 minutes away. Adrian, perfect. We'll wait for you. Her heart skipped, as if his words were more than simple logistics, as if they meant something he wasn't saying yet. The moment the kids spotted each other, they ran, full speed, into one of those chaotic but beautiful group hugs children give freely. Leo grabbed Lily's hand. Oliver barreled into Adrian's leg before Leo picked him up. The kids jumped, squealed, compared toys, and began planning imaginary missions on the playground. Maya stood there watching them. The chaos, the joy, the way her children blended so effortlessly into this new world, and she swore something inside her cracked open. Adrian approached with 2 warm cups in hand. Hot chocolate? He asked, holding one out to her. Maya blinked. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he said simply. She accepted it, cautiously, like the cup was more fragile than the moment she now found herself in. Thank you, she whispered. They stood side by side, watching the kids climb the jungle gym. The sky was violet, streaked with gold from the setting sun. The air had that crisp early winter bite, sharp but invigorating. Maya took a sip and sighed. This is nice, she said. It is, he answered. Silence settled between them, not awkward, not tense, but warm, comfortable. Then Maya spoke, voice gentle. Do you bring Leo here often? Adrian nodded. When I can. He loves the park, and I love watching him forget how quiet he gets at home. Maya glanced at him. Quiet. Adrian exhaled. Yeah, he's a lot like me. Observant, careful, reserved. That's not a bad thing, she said softly. No, but I don't want him to hold everything inside the way I do. Maya's chest tightened. You're doing better than you think, she murmured. Leo is happy. He's loved. He's cared for. That's more than many kids have. Adrian looked at her, really looked, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. You're an incredible mother, he said quietly. She startled. What? No, You are, he insisted. I've never seen someone carry so much and still give so much. Her throat constricted. She looked away quickly. I don't feel incredible. That's because you don't see what I see. Her eyes burned. Adrian, she whispered, voice trembling. You don't know half the things I've failed at. He stepped closer, not enough to touch, but enough that the warmth of him reached her. I haven't asked, he said, because I don't need to know your failures to see your strength. Maya shook her head. Strength isn't enough to keep the lights on, or buy groceries, or pay rent. Adrian's jaw tightened. And yet, somehow, you still manage to do all of it. She laughed, a broken, exhausted sound. No, I don't. I barely manage anything at all. He didn't contradict her this time. Instead, he asked softly, Do you want to tell me what's going on? Her heart thudded. No one asked that. Not like that. Not gently. Not genuinely. She closed her eyes, inhaled shakily, then released the words slowly, like peeling back layers she kept hidden far too long. I'm behind on rent, she admitted. My hours at my second job got cut. I've been skipping meals. I can't afford daycare some weeks. And every night, I lie awake wondering how long I can keep pretending things are okay. The words spilled out faster now, desperate, unstoppable. I'm so tired, Adrian. I'm so tired of pretending I'm not drowning. Adrian's chest constricted painfully. He reached out, slowly, and placed a hand on her shoulder. Just one hand. Just a gentle squeeze. But it felt like a lifeline. You don't have to pretend with me, he whispered. Not ever. Her lips trembled. Why? She whispered. Why are you being so kind to me? His answer was simple. Because someone should be. Her breath hitched. Her tears fell, one then two, and she swiped them away quickly, ashamed. I'm sorry, she said, embarrassed. I didn't mean to fall apart like this. Maya, Adrian murmured, voice soft with sincerity. You're not falling apart. You're finally letting someone see the cracks. Her knees weakened. Her heart thudded. Her fingers curled around the hot chocolate cup, as if it were the only solid thing she had left to hold. And in that moment, for the first time in years, she allowed herself to lean just a little toward someone else, toward him. Their conversation was cut short when Lily shrieked with laughter as Leo slid down the slide backwards, Oliver following in chaotic toddler fashion. Maya wiped her eyes quickly. Adrian lowered his hand, giving her the dignity of the moment. But the warmth between them, the closeness didn't fade. If anything, it deepened. Later, as they gathered the kids, Maya buckled Oliver into the stroller and hesitated. Thank you, she whispered, for listening, for everything. Adrian nodded. I'm here, he said. She exhaled. I'd like to see you again. He smiled, a quiet, relieved smile. You will. And as they walked home in separate directions, children waving, hearts unsteady, both adults knew it. Something real had begun. Something neither of them could walk away from now. Something soft. Something terrifying. Something needed. Something that felt a lot like healing. The days that followed their night in the park felt like the quiet calm before a shift in season. The kind of subtle warmth that precedes the first real bloom of spring. But beneath that warmth was something else too. Something slower, deeper, dangerous in the most human way. Attachment. Maya found herself smiling at random moments. At work, while cooking, while folding laundry. At simple memories of Adrian's voice, Adrian's quiet reassurances, Adrian's gentle steadiness. Adrian found himself checking his phone during work meetings, irritated when hours passed without a message from her, relieved when he saw her name light up his screen. And the kids? They were wholly, loudly, wonderfully obsessed. Lily talked about Leo constantly. Leo asked daily if they could see Miss Maya. Oliver squealed whenever he saw Adrian's name pop up on Maya's phone. A rhythm was forming, not official, not spoken, not defined, but real. And then, just when everything felt steady, the storm arrived. It started with something small. A message from Maya on Tuesday morning. Maya, I'm so sorry, but I might be late picking up Lily. My manager extended my shift last minute. Adrian responded without thinking. Adrian, I can get her. I'm off in an hour. Maya hesitated. He could tell. Maya, I don't want to inconvenience you. Adrian, it's not an inconvenience. I'm happy to help. Another pause. Then, Maya, thank you. Really. Adrian left work early, picked up Lily, and took her and Leo for hot chocolate until Maya finished her shift. But when Maya arrived, exhausted, hair messy, coat half buttoned, her eyes weren't filled with gratitude. They were filled with panic. Maya, Adrian asked gently, what's wrong? She pulled Lily into her arms too quickly, too tightly. Thank you, she blurted. I'm so sorry you had to do this. I didn't mean for you to. I shouldn't have. I won't ask again. I promise. Maya, he said softly, stepping closer. Hey, slow down. But her breathing was fast, shaky. Her eyes darted everywhere except at him. I should be able to do this myself. I shouldn't need anyone I can't keep. Maya, he said more firmly now. Look at me. She did, reluctantly, fearfully, like looking at him meant opening a flood she'd been holding back for years. You didn't inconvenience me, he said. You didn't burden me. I offered because I wanted to. She swallowed hard. But what if you stop wanting to? The words hit him like a slap. Ah, there it was. The truth beneath the panic. She wasn't panicking about today. She was panicking about attachment, about need, dependence, disappointment, loss. He stepped closer. I'm not your ex, he said quietly. Her eyes flashed with old pain. I know that. But you're scared I'll leave like he did. Silence. Sharp. Crushing. Maya looked away, hand gripping Lily a little too tightly. You don't know what it's like, she whispered, to be left with 2 kids, no money, no safety net, to beg for help no one wanted to give, to have people look at you as if needing anything makes you weak. Adrian's chest ached. Maya, he said, voice soft, you've been surviving alone for so long that the idea of leaning on someone at all feels dangerous. She nodded, barely, eyes glistening. But you're not leaning on me, he added. You're letting someone stand beside you. Her breath hitched. Don't say that, she whispered. Not unless you mean it. He stepped even closer. I do mean it. Her lips parted. Her eyes softened. For a moment, it felt like she might finally let her walls drop completely. But then, a voice cut through the moment like a knife. Mom. Lily tugged Maya's sleeve. Are you okay? Maya blinked back the tears and forced a smile. Yes, baby, she said shakily. I'm fine. She turned back to Adrian, the unspoken conversation hanging, fragile, unfinished. I should get them home, she whispered. He nodded gently. Let me walk you. No, she said too quickly. No, it's okay. You've done enough. He didn't push, didn't argue. He simply said, I'm here if you need me. She swallowed, nodded once, and walked away with the kids, her steps unsteady, her shoulders tight, her heart caught between past wounds and present hope. Adrian watched her go, a slow ache spreading through him. This wasn't rejection. This wasn't distance. This was fear. Fear of love. Fear of loss. Fear of hope. And he knew, deeply, that if they were going to move forward, she would have to confront the one truth she'd been avoiding. Caring for someone wasn't the same as depending on them. And letting someone in didn't mean falling apart. But fear wasn't the only storm on the horizon, because the world Maya lived in, the roles she juggled, the limited support she had, the brutal realities of single motherhood. Didn't care that her heart was healing. And the next blow was about to land. Hard. The storm hit 2 days later. Thursday afternoon. A letter taped to her front door. Her hands trembled as she ripped it open. Her eyesight blurred as she read the words. Final notice. Eviction proceedings will begin in 10 days. Her legs gave out. She fell to her knees. Her breath crashed in her chest. Her vision dimmed at the edges. She had been late before, more than once, but she'd always found a way, always negotiated, always managed to pull through. Not this time. 10 days. 10 days to find a miracle. 10 days until she and her children were homeless. Tears streamed down her face. Her entire body shook. She didn't call Adrian. She didn't even think of calling him, because this raw desperation was exactly the kind of vulnerability she'd been terrified to reveal. And yet, when Maya put the kids to bed that night, heartbroken, hands trembling, she stared at her phone for a long, long time. She didn't want to reach out, but she also couldn't breathe. Her walls cracked. Her fingers moved before her fear could stop them. "Maya, are you awake?" The reply came instantly. "Adrian, yes. What's wrong?" She held her breath, then typed the words that shattered everything. "Maya, I think I'm losing our home." And with that message, the storm fully broke. Not just over Maya, but over both of them. Over what they were becoming. Over what they feared. Over what they hadn't yet admitted. They needed each other more than either dared say. Adrian didn't even grab his coat the moment Maya's message appeared on his screen. He was out the door, keys in hand, pulse pounding like he'd been sprinting for miles. He didn't think about how late it was. He didn't think about whether she wanted him physically there. He didn't think about boundaries, timing, or caution. He only thought one thing, over and over. She needs me. And he had spent too many years pretending he didn't need anyone to let her drown alone. The city was freezing, but he barely felt it. His mind moved faster than his feet, replaying her words again and again. "I think I'm losing our home." His gut twisted. He didn't know every detail of her life yet, but he knew enough. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for anything she didn't desperately need. So if she said she was losing her home, then she was already standing at the edge. He reached her building in minutes, heart racing, breath fogging the air. He texted once. "Adrian, I'm outside." No response. He knocked softly. A few seconds later, the door opened just enough for him to see her face. Tear-stained, exhausted, defeated. "Maya," he breathed. She swallowed hard, eyes full of shame. "I didn't want you to come." "I know," he said gently. "But I'm here anyway." She stepped back, letting him in. The apartment was dim, silent except for the ticking of an old wall clock. The kids were asleep on the pull-out couch, their tiny bodies tangled in blankets. A half-finished dinner sat cold on the table. Maya stood with her arms wrapped around herself, as if trying to hold all her pieces together. Adrian approached slowly. "Show me the letter." She reached into her pocket with trembling fingers and handed him the crumpled eviction notice. He scanned it, jaw tightening. 10 days, he muttered. "They can't." "They can," she whispered. "I've been late too many times. They warned me 2 months ago. I tried. I really tried." Adrian looked up at her, really looked, and the weight of her quiet suffering crushed him. "Maya," he said softly, "why didn't you tell me earlier?" Her voice cracked. "Because I'm so tired of needing things I never get. Because people leave when it gets too hard. Because I can't handle the look in someone's eyes when they realize I'm not worth the effort." His heart broke. He moved closer. But she lifted a hand, stopping him. "I don't want her pity. And I don't want you to feel obligated. You have your own life, your own child, your own responsibilities. I don't want to be another burden you feel too guilty to walk away from." Her voice trembled. Her chin quivered. Her eyes glistened. "I can't survive someone leaving again," she whispered. And there it was, the real wound, the one she'd been guarding with iron walls and quiet smiles. Adrian took a slow step toward her. "Maya." She shook her head, stepping back. He stepped forward again. "Look at me." She didn't. "Maya." He said more firmly, "Look at me." Her eyes finally lifted to his, and he said the words he meant with his entire chest. "I'm not going anywhere." She shook her head, a broken laugh escaping her. You say that now. No, he interrupted softly. I say that because it's true. Her breath trembled. You don't know what you're signing up for, she whispered. I come with children, debt, exhaustion, baggage, trauma. I'm not easy. He closed the space between them until they stood inches apart. I don't want easy, he said quietly. I want you. Her lips parted. A small, helpless sound escaped her. She shook her head, tears spilling again. Why? She whispered. Why me? You could have anyone. No, he said, voice steady. No, I couldn't. Because what I'm looking for is not a perfect woman with a perfect life. I want someone who knows what it means to fight, to survive, to give everything even when she has nothing left. He swallowed hard. You are the strongest person I've ever met. Maya's face crumpled. Adrian. He reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away, and when she didn't, he gently brushed a tear from her cheek. She leaned into his hand, just barely, just enough to let him know she wanted to contact more than she wanted to hide. And that small lean, that tiny movement, was the beginning of something neither of them knew how to name yet. They sat at the kitchen table long into the night. She told him everything. Every missed rent, every cut shift, every late notice she'd hidden from everyone, including herself. He listened without judgment, without interruption, without a single hint of the pity she feared. He only listened with warmth and focus, the kind of listening she'd never received from any man in her life. When she finally finished, he took a deep breath. Okay, he said, then here's what we're going to do. Her eyes widened. We. Yes, he said gently. We. You're not alone in this anymore. She swallowed. I can't take money from you. I'm not offering money, he said. She blinked. You're not. No, I'm offering options. Practical ones. He laid them out clearly, calmly. Plan A. Talk to the landlord with him present and negotiate an extension. Plan B. Use his connections to help her apply for emergency rental assistance through programs she didn't know existed. Plan C. Help her find a better-paying job at the firm's sister company. Plan D. Help her find a safer, affordable apartment nearer to his neighborhood. Plan E. A blended support approach until she could stabilize everything. No shaming. No rescuing. Just partnership. Maya stared, stunned. No one has ever done this for me, she whispered. Maybe you've never had the right people around you, Adrian replied softly. Her eyes welled again. Why are you doing this? She whispered. For real. Why? And for the first time, he didn't soften it. He didn't hide it. He didn't run from it. Because I care about you, he said. More than I should. More than I expected. More than I've cared about anyone in a long, long time. The air shifted. Her breath caught. And in the quiet, between the fear and the hope, Maya whispered the truth she'd been swallowing for weeks. I care about you, too. Everything stopped. Her shoulders shook. Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. And Adrian reached for her hand, gently, cautiously, giving her the chance to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers curled into his like she'd been waiting for someone to hold her this way for years. Maya, he whispered, voice breaking with the weight of the moment. You're not alone anymore. I promise. Tears streamed down her cheeks. And for the first time in a long, long time, she believed someone. But the night was not over yet, because just as their hands intertwined, just as the air between them thickened with something neither could ignore, a loud, sharp knock slammed against the front door. Maya froze. Adrian stiffened. The knock came again, harder this time. Her voice cracked. Oh, no, she whispered. Not tonight. Please, not tonight. Who is it? Adrian murmured. Maya looked at him with pure dread. It's the landlord. And just like that, their fragile peace shattered. The storm wasn't done with them. Not even close. The knocking got louder, harsher, each slam rattling the thin apartment door and sending a bolt of panic straight through Maya's chest. She stood there frozen, breath shallow, eyes wide with dread. The kind that came from years of being threatened, ignored, dismissed, and pushed to the edge by people who held too much power over her life. Adrian saw it. and something primal ignited inside him, not anger, not protectiveness alone, but a fierce, unwavering resolve. He rose slowly from the chair. "Maya," he said softly, "stay here." She grabbed his wrist instinctively. "Please don't. He'll only make it worse. You don't understand how he gets." Adrian gently placed his hand over hers. "I won't make anything worse," he said calmly. "And I won't let him speak to you with disrespect. Not while I'm here." Another thunderous knock. "Ma'am, open the door. You're already past due. We need to talk tonight." Maya flinched like she'd been struck. Adrian stepped in front of her before she could reach the door. He unlocked it and opened it just enough to step partially into the hallway. The landlord, a stocky man with a permanent scowl, looked up, annoyed when he saw someone else. "Who the hell are you?" Adrian didn't raise his voice. He didn't posture. He didn't threaten. He simply stood tall, steady, and unshakably calm. "My name is Adrian Hale," he said. "I'm here with Maya." The landlord crossed his arms. "Well, unless you're here to pay her debt, I don't need to talk to you." "Actually," Adrian said evenly, "you do, because the way you're handling this violates several tenant laws." The landlord's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Adrian replied. "No written 30-day notice. No attempt at mediation. And definitely no legal right to threaten a tenant at night in her home." Maya stood behind him, trembling, but watching something she had never seen in her entire adult life. Someone standing up for her, not as an inconvenience, not as a burden, not as deadweight, but as someone worth defending. The landlord scoffed. "She's month behind. I've given her chances." "Which she tried to meet," Adrian replied calmly. "But we're not discussing the past anymore. We're discussing a plan." The landlord laughed. "A plan? She's a lost cause." That did it. Maya flinched. Her eyes dropped. Her shoulders folded in like she expected the words. Adrian stepped forward, not threateningly, but firmly enough to force eye contact. "Don't call her that." "Silence. She's not a lost cause. She's a tenant in hardship, and you will treat her with professionalism and respect, or we will bring in housing advocacy." The landlord blinked, taken aback. "Who even are you?" Adrian held his stare. "Someone who knows her worth." Behind him, Maya swallowed hard, lips trembling. Adrian continued. "She is not being evicted in 10 days. She is not being harassed. And she is not navigating this alone anymore." The landlord bristled. "You think you can walk in here and—" "Yes," Adrian said firmly. "I do." More silence. Adrian reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and held it out. "I work with a firm that has handled dozens of cases like this. We know the law, and we know what's allowed and what isn't." The landlord hesitated, visibly shaken, then snatched the card. Adrian lowered his voice, calm but deadly serious. "You will give her until the end of the month. You will provide an itemized statement of arrears, and you will communicate through email during appropriate hours." The landlord looked ready to argue again, until Adrian added, "If you don't, we will escalate. And trust me, you will not win." The landlord's jaw clenched. Then, finally, grudgingly, he nodded. "Fine. End of the month. But if she isn't caught up, we'll discuss solutions then," Adrian said. "Not threats." The landlord muttered something under his breath, turned, and stomped down the hallway. Adrian closed the door gently, and when he turned around, Maya was already crying. Not silent tears, not controlled tears, but deep, shaking sobs, the kind she had held inside for too many years. She sank onto the couch, hands covering her face. Adrian was beside her instantly. "Maya," he whispered. She shook her head, trembling all over. "No one has ever, no one," her voice broke completely. "No one has ever stood up for me like that." He sat down beside her, not touching her yet, waiting for her to reach for him. "You deserved it," he said softly. "You always have." She looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "People walk away. People get tired. People leave the moment I ask for anything. Adrian's heart cracked wide open. Maya, he said quietly, I'm not those people. Her lips trembled. You keep saying that, she whispered. Why? Why are you still here? He took her hand gently. Because you matter to me. Her breath caught. He continued, voice low, steady, full of truth. You are strong. You are trying. You are raising two good kids alone. You are surviving things most people couldn't imagine. He lifted her chin with the gentleness of someone who knew she wasn't used to being handled softly. And you deserve someone in your corner. Her eyes filled again. Adrian. And then, finally, she collapsed into his arms. Not because she was weak, not because she needed rescuing, but because she had finally allowed herself to be held. He wrapped his arms around her slowly, securely, not too tight, not too loose, just enough to let her melt without fear. Her face pressed into his chest. Her fingers clutched his shirt. Her sobs shook both of them. And for the first time in her life, someone didn't let her fall alone. They stayed like that for a long time, minutes, maybe hours, until her tears softened and her breathing steadied. Finally, Maya pulled back slightly, cheeks flushed, eyes red. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to break down on you. Adrian brushed a strand of hair from her face. You didn't break down, he murmured. You let go. Her breath shivered. That's even scarier. He cupped her cheek gently. You don't have to be scared with me. Her eyes softened, full of fear and longing at once. And then, for the first time, she leaned in, not all the way, not enough for anything to happen, just enough for their foreheads to touch. A breath, a moment, a promise neither dared speak yet. Then she whispered, Please don't leave. His thumb brushed her cheek. I'm not going anywhere. And he meant it, more than she knew, more than he even knew. Outside, the night was cold. Inside, something fragile, powerful, and life-changing had begun. But their battle wasn't over. Not with the landlord. Not with Maya's fear. Not with the world stacked against her. And definitely not with the feelings growing between them. Deeper, faster, stronger than either expected. Because next came the moment that would change everything. The moment where caring wasn't enough. Where choices had to be made. Where Maya's biggest fear collided with Adrian's deepest wound. And neither of them would walk away untouched. The next morning came too quickly. Not because the night had been short, but because everything Maya had spent years bearing was now out in the open. The fear, the exhaustion, the truth, her vulnerability. And, most terrifying of all, the feelings growing between her and Adrian. She barely slept. Adrian hadn't left until almost 2 a.m., only after she practically pushed him out the door so she could think, so she could breathe, so she could sit in the silence of her apartment and face the storm she had spent years pretending wasn't there. Now, as morning light crept through the thin curtains, she made breakfast on autopilot. Cereal for Lily, scrambled eggs for Oliver, coffee she didn't have time to finish. But something was different. The apartment didn't feel as suffocating. The walls didn't feel like they were closing in. Because for the first time in a long, long time, someone had fought for her, and she didn't know how to process that. When she dropped the kids at school, her phone buzzed. Adrian, can I take you to lunch today? Just us, asterisk. Her breath caught. She typed, erased, typed again. Maya, are you sure? After last night, you don't have to, asterisk. Adrian, I'm not asking because I have to. I'm asking because I want to, asterisk. Warmth spread through her chest. Fear tangled with it instantly. She typed slowly. Maya, okay, lunch. They met at a small cafe halfway between her neighborhood and his office. The place was quiet, with warm lighting and soft music, the kind of setting that normally soothed Maya. But today, she was anxious, flustered, afraid of saying too much, and terrified of saying nothing. Adrian arrived first. He stood when she walked in, and she felt it. The warmth, the sincerity, the softness he reserved only for her. Maya, he said softly, come sit. She slid into the booth across from him, hands clenched together beneath the table. He studied her carefully. You didn't sleep. She laughed weakly. Neither did you. He didn't deny it. Last night was a lot, he said. It was, she whispered. Silence stretched between them, not cold, but heavy with unspoken truth. Finally, Adrian leaned forward, elbows resting on the table. I meant everything I said last night. Maya swallowed hard. I know. And I'm not going anywhere, he added firmly. Not because I feel obligated. Not because I pity you. But because I care about you. Deeply. Her eyes flickered away. Adrian, you're asking for chaos. I'm asking for honesty, he corrected gently. From both of us. She hesitated. Then, I don't know how to do this, she admitted quietly. I don't know how to trust someone again. I don't know how to let someone in without falling apart. He reached across the table, offering his hand. He didn't grab hers. He simply waited, and slowly, hesitantly, she placed her hand in his. His thumb brushed her knuckles. Then we'll figure out, he said softly. Together, her breath trembled. Adrian, I'm scared. I know, he whispered. That's why I'm here. Tears filled her eyes. Not of pain this time, but of relief she wasn't ready to acknowledge. And then she finally said the word she'd been swallowing. I care about you, too. His breath hitched, and everything changed. Lunch passed in soft conversation. For the first time, Maya let herself talk about things she normally hid. Her dreams, her fears, her hopes for her children. Adrian listened to every word like it mattered. And it did. To him, it all mattered. After they finished eating, they walked outside into the crisp winter air. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky. Maya tucked her hair behind her ear. What happens now? She whispered. Adrian exhaled, breath foggy in the cold. Now, he said gently, we take this one step at a time. She nodded slowly. And what about the housing situation? He stepped closer. Not too close, not enough to overwhelm her, but enough that she felt safe. We fix it, he said. I'll help you apply for the assistance program. And you'll come to the meeting with the landlord on Monday. We'll handle it together. You're not navigating any of it alone. Her eyes softened. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Then she added, thank you. He smiled, a soft, warm smile that made her heart stumble. You don't have to thank me, he said. I want to be here. With you. For you. She looked down at their feet in the snow. Adrian. Yes. If we do this, if we try, I don't want you to regret it later. He reached for her again, gently brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. I won't. She exhaled shakily. Then she said something she never thought she'd say to anyone again. I want to try. Adrian's eyes softened with a warmth she couldn't fully understand yet. Then we try, he whispered. The snow fell around them softly, the world quieting just enough for Maya to hear her own heartbeat. And his. For the first time in years, something inside her lifted. Hope. Real hope. Not because life suddenly got easy. Not because her problems were magically solved. Not because Adrian stepped in like a savior. But because she wasn't alone anymore. Because someone saw her, chose her, fought for her, and stayed. And because for the first time, she let herself believe she deserved it. That evening, Adrian walked her home. The kids ran into his arms when they saw him at the door. Lily begged him to stay for dinner. Leo asked a dozen questions about when they could all play again. Oliver squealed until Adrian lifted him onto his hip. Maya watched all of it with a full, aching heart. This, the laughter, the warmth, the normalcy, was something she never thought she'd have again. Adrian tucked Oliver into his blanket and turned to her. I'll be back tomorrow, he said. We'll start the paperwork together. She nodded, eyes soft. Okay. He lingered for a moment. So, he murmured, is it okay if I... Before he could finish, she stepped forward. Not fast, not impulsively, but with quiet courage. And she kissed him. A soft, trembling, hesitant kiss. Full of fear, hope, gratitude, longing, and everything she'd been too afraid to give. Adrian froze, shocked, then cupped her face gently and kissed her back. Slowly, tenderly, like she was something fragile and precious. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "I'm still scared." He brushed their foreheads together. "I know," he breathed. "I am too." They both smiled, small, real smiles. "But we'll figure it out," he whispered. "Together," she finished. And that was the moment everything settled into place. Not perfect, not easy, not without challenges, but real, honest, hopeful. A beginning neither of them expected, and both of them needed. As Adrian left her apartment that night, Maya watched him go with her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know how hard the road ahead would be. She didn't know if everything would work out exactly the way she dreamed. But she knew two things. She wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time in far too long, she believed she deserved happiness. As she closed the door and leaned against it, tears of relief filled her eyes. Her life wasn't fixed, but it was changing, healing, opening. And in the soft glow of the hallway light, she whispered the words she hadn't dared to believe in years. "It's going to be okay." And for the first time, she truly believed it.